What is going on, YouTube? Northeast Ohio Sports Cards here for some more PSA talk. It's a little part two, basically, from the video we did this morning. So now we've had a little bit of time for things to kind of marinate, shake themselves out, get some additional pieces of information. I wanted to just kind of sit down and talk about the ripple effects. So where does this leave us? What does this mean? What do we do? The sky is falling. This is the end of the world. So before we get into it, smash the like button down below. And if you're new to the channel or just stopping by to check this out, why don't you hit the subscribe button? See what we're all about here. All right, let's get into it. So to review very quickly, PSA basically doubled their prices across the board. We could pull it up real quick here, but I don't want to spend too much time going over old territory. Value is $20 a card for non-ultra modern, $25 a card for ultra modern, requires a silver membership, which also went up in price. Economy now $50 a card, does not currently exist. You cannot submit through economy. Regular goes from 50 to 100. Express goes from 75 to 150. Super Express goes from 200 to $100. So essentially double, not quite double, depending on what you're talking about. But needless to say, big yikes to regular and express. In addition to that, they came out with a nice little PSA customer update, March 2021, talking about the Nat Turner acquisition and his group. Couple of good newsy things to come out of here. One, they talk about their new complete through date tracker, which we will talk about separately in a minute, because that is a completely new thing. Bunch of nonsense here in the middle that is kind of whatever. Career fair, whatever. Operational footprint. So this is where they kind of go into, and I shouldn't just blow off the career fair thing, because the number one thing that you hear, and once again, I'm going to preface this entire video by saying all the grading companies suck. So keep that in mind. But let's at least attempt to be fair to the individual companies here, depending on which one we're talking about. Right now, we're talking about PSA. We're going to expand into the others in this video. Biggest criticism is, why don't they hire more people? Why don't they expand? They have been. We'll get into it into the other thing that they posted, but they've basically added a few hundred employees since December and have doubled their space. It says that they acquired 62,000 square foot of office space, which is a crap ton, in a building adjacent to their current one, and they are now fully utilizing that space. So one of the number one comments I see, whether it's on Facebook or in YouTube comments, is, why did they hire more people? Why didn't they get more offices? They did. And we kept sending more cards. The other thing I see a lot of, which I'm getting a little on a tangent here, is if people would stop submitting all their junk base cards, who are we to judge who submits what? People should be able to submit whatever the hell they want, whenever the hell they want, if they're willing to pay the price. No one should sit behind their keyboards and tell people what they should or should not submit. Everyone is in this hobby / investing / whatever you want to call this for something different. Just because you think it doesn't make sense to submit LeBron James 75th year card because it's his 15th Laker jersey card, just because you think that doesn't make sense doesn't mean someone else agrees with you. They might think it makes sense maybe for their PC. Maybe they think there's value in that card. Maybe they're wrong. Maybe they're right. I don't know, but that's their money and their time and their effort to send. You don't get special privileges because you think your stuff's better or is worthy of being submitted versus someone that doesn't. I submit a bunch of Marvel cards. I bet you a lot of people think that's a bunch of junk. Well, you know, it is what it is. We're all in it for something different. So don't sit there and preach to people about, well, they shouldn't be submitting this. They shouldn't be submitting that. Could they have hired earlier? Sure. Don't forget, we're in the middle of a global pandemic. That doesn't exactly make things easier. And once again, I'm not trying to defend PSA. They all suck. I am just looking at this from an outside perspective, trying to read the room as best as I can. back on track. Pricing updates, we know. We've kind of covered that already. Couple little interesting tidbits that come out of the pricing update that I missed in this morning's video. They are suspending crossover services. So that means you cannot submit a card currently in another slab to attempt to cross it over to a PSA slab. You're going to have to crack it, at least for the time being. They also talk about product enhancements. And the interesting thing here is they talk about sending you a little presentation box for Super Express orders. I really don't care about that. However, they mention here, and I encourage you guys to go read this on PSA's website. I'm not going to sit here and read to you guys. You guys can do that. But in this little highlighted section, they talk about exploring new inner sleeve configurations. So essentially how BGS puts their cards in a little tiny pocket, like a little penny sleeve. It sounds like PSA is looking into that as well, which I would actually like quite a bit. It's one thing I don't like about PSA slabs is not having the inner sleeve, which I really like about Beckett's. So I found that interesting. That and the no longer doing crossover services. So let's talk about complete through dates. This was the other thing that was announced today as this handy little tracker. A lot of people were criticizing this, saying this is completely worthless. I don't think it's completely worthless. I think it's kind of handy. Essentially what this tells you is the oldest order still in the system for an individual service level. So you at least have, it's not perfect information. You don't know exactly where you sit, but at least you have a general idea. For example, I will use myself as an example here. They list economy as being at August 2nd, 2020. To me, that is useful information as someone that has an economy order sitting there that was checked in on like September 2nd or 3rd. That's been in grading for months. This leads me to believe that they are at least creeping up on my order. So maybe in about a month or so, because the thing we don't know yet is how quickly this chart moves. And the blowout forms have already done a fantastic job about adding a tracker for this so people could keep track of it. So I do think that this is helpful. It is much more transparent than most of the other companies are currently doing. They also have this communication center thing tied in as that. It kind of talks about submission growth history, packages received per week, all that sort of stuff. I am not going to go through this. It talks about, how they are hiring more people, want to go lean, robotics, continuous improvement, the complete through date thing, all that jazz. So you guys can feel free to read through that. So this is our current pricing. The big question in the room is, what do we do from here? In my personal opinion, here's how I see things shaking out. And once again, this is coming at the perspective of all these companies suck. It's just a matter of what they suck in and how much they suck. Long story short, for anything high value, you are still going to want to send it to PSA. So if you crack a LaMelo Ball, because sneaky of them to get this out right before Prism comes out, Prism Basketball. If you pull a LaMelo Ball silver and it looks in excellent shape, odds are you're sending it to PSA on an express at minimum, depending on how quick you want to flip it. Maybe you don't go super express, but if you pull a hot rookie silver, specifically LaMelo, we'll use him in this case, or maybe you rip a 19 product and you pull a Zion or Josh Silver, you're sending it at express, most likely to PSA. Anything on that level, maybe even like a Zion Prism base, Ja Prism base, if you're pretty sure it can get a 10, probably a LaMelo Prism base, those are probably going to sell for quite a bit of money. I'm going to guess. We'll see. We'll have to see how things play out. You're probably sending them to PSA under regular service, most likely at $100 a card. Just my guess. Just my guess. Because say you pull it, PSA 9 goes for a little over 100, so you break even on 9s, and what do we think his PSA 10 goes for? Probably initially $500-600. That's what Zion and Ja are going for. Ja's 400, Zion 600, so probably somewhere right around there. He's the hot new thing. The other piece of information that we don't have yet are group submitters. Pricing has not trickled down to them yet, and how, at least as of time of recording. I'm recording this Monday, middle afternoon, heading to late afternoon, to be posted Monday night. We don't know pricing for group level services yet. So depending on the price breaks that you get going through like a PSA Sportscards or a local card shop or whatever, there's a billion of them out there. Depending on what their pricing looks like, take a few percentage off this, and that's your new number to work for. So what does that leave us with? On the high end, like I said, I think it's still PSA. On the low end is where you have a choice. So Keldon Johnson base optic, Marvel trading cards, Kevin Porter Jr. Prism. Let's fast forward this to the new 2020 product, Isaac Okoro base. Those sorts of guys. Sadiq Bey, Emmanuel Quickly. You pull those guys in a month out of Prism, you're not spending $100 a card to grade them. So what are we doing with those guys? You essentially have two choices. PSA value at $20 a card and see it in 8 to 12 months, or somebody else. And that's what the back half of this video is going to be about, is the somebody else. A lot of people, based off some polls and stuff that I've seen today, and just talking with some people, and I ran a poll on my community tab, and there was one running in the SCI Discord. A decent amount of people, this changes nothing. It's going to change how they submit and what they submit, but it is going to shift their thoughts on some stuff. And who's to say that value is still going to be a year if this causes them to get caught up? This is definitely going to pump the brakes on regular and express orders, which they were just getting pounded with, which was causing them, because they have to shift focus to those orders to get them done in the expedited time, to not being able to work on the value submissions. So I think that stuff maybe loosens up a little bit. It's going to take some time though. So if you submit today, you're probably still looking at quite the wait, but as things roll on, we will see. All right. So high end stuff, you're still probably sending the PSA. They're going to pull the prettiest penny. And if you pull a nice silver or a numbered card or some other variation or a shimmer or whatever, optic hollow, select courtside, field level, whatever, that stuff's still going to be going to PSA, in my opinion. Sure, some people will break ranks, but most of it's still going to go to PSA for that sort of stuff. So where do we see it shaking out for the lower value stuff? That's where it gets more interesting. So let's run through them real quick. Beckett, they just raised their prices not that long ago. We've talked about it a million times in other videos. I personally don't think anything changes with Beckett. They are probably still the laughing stock of the 5. Their prices actually aren't that much cheaper than PSA, and in some cases, they're still more expensive. Premium with Beckett with subgrades is $250 a card. Super Express with PSA, which is faster, is $300 a card, and PSA outsells Beckett by about 40 to 50%, at least on Ultra Modern, on a 9.5 versus a PSA 10. So, and if you're talking about the card, the level of that you're willing to spend $200 to $300 to grade it, it's probably even a bigger gap. So you're probably talking thousands of dollars difference in price. Is a no-brainer. You're going to send it to PSA. Next one down, Express at $150 a card. Express $150 a card. It's the exact same amount, and we run back into the same problem of PSA 10s crush BGS 9.5s on value. Standard $50 a card versus regular at $100 a card. So Beckett's cheaper ones look slightly more viable. Their economy is $35 a card, but this has been taking months to a year to get back from BGS. I know people that have economy orders out to Beckett from last June or July. So at $35 a card, you might as well just use value at $20 a card. Plus you get the 40% bump on the pricing, generally speaking. So Beckett to me is a no-go. So let's cross Beckett off the list. CSG. Actually, yeah, let's go CSG first. We'll talk about the new kids on the block, and then we'll circle around to where I think this is going to end up. A lot of people were talking about CSG. Their sports card grading section opened this week. You're looking at these prices plus $10 a card, because if you're going to sub with them, you're probably going to need to get subgrades. Here's the problem. Pricing wise, you're going to be looking at a little bit less. Express, $50 a card, walk through $100 a card, standard $25 a card, so on and so forth. Plus tack on the $10 for the subgrades. Here's my concern with CSG. Let's rewind time to 1 year ago, almost exactly, probably about 10 months, when SGC announced themselves to the world and send us all your cards. Now, CSG has not done that yet, but I could tell you based off some feedback, a lot of people are about to try them out. And a lot of people will at least send low-end stuff there just to see what they're all about. We saw what happened with SGC last year. My prediction, and I don't like getting into prediction games too often, my prediction is all the stories and videos we saw circulating around SGC last summer about how they promised X amount of turnaround time and now they're backed up for months and communication sucks and this, that, and the other thing. I think you can replace all those headlines, forum posts, Facebook group messages, take out SGC's name and insert CSG's name in a few months. They are a brand new company. I understand that they're backed by CGC and they have a bunch of parent companies, but been investigating the comic book world a lot recently. CGC, the comic book version, is essentially the PSA of comic books, is in not much better shape than PSA in regards to how the community views them, turnaround times, etc., etc. So that does not lead me to believe that CSG has this great support system behind it. They're better than like some fly by night, but I could easily see CSG being SGC in 3 months where they are buried in submissions and people are pissed off. They also probably have the ugliest slab out of all of them going for them, at least in my opinion. Now, someone else might think differently. And they also have the fact that 9.5 is their main grading standard, which the community has spoken. It does not like 9.5s. It wants 10s as the common grade. So that is my concern with CSG. I like them as a company in regards to, they have 2 BGS head graders. They are backed by CGC and those other parent companies. Like all that's good, but I really worry they are not going to be able to scale quickly enough to handle the volume. They've already semi-proven that they can't do that on the comic book side. And we saw what happened with SGC last year when they got slammed and them trying to scale up with everything going on in the world. And now all of a sudden we're asking CSG to take the load off for lower end stuff. I have my concerns. Maybe I'm wrong and maybe they could scale up fast enough, but I am extremely worried that they are going to get buried in this. So pricing wise, you could use their economy service, $25 a card, 40-day turnaround time. So 2 months, assuming that they hit that. And that all seems well and good for lower end stuff. You could do bulk 60 days, which is 3 months. It'd be, I think, $18 a card. That's where you could send a majority of your, base level spec rookies to, stuff like that, and kind of see what happens. But I'll be very curious to see if they're going to be able to even come close to those turnaround times once everyone gets wind of them. So that's my take on CSG. That's my worry. Maybe they prove me wrong, but I'm concerned. All right, let's go to the hot button one. HGA. I have seen more posts today about people going to HGA, both on Facebook, in my own YouTube comments, in Discords, and other YouTube videos that, that's it. HGA, here I come. HGA lets you submit 3,000 cards per week at the moment. That's it. 3,000 cards is absolutely nothing. And their queue system the last couple weeks has been a mess. What makes you think that all of a sudden that's going to magically get better when all these people that are pissed at PSA price increases go pounding on HGA's doors. Like, people are just yelling out, up, HGA, that's it, let's go. Guys, they have a cap of 2,800 cards or whatever it is. Yes, it's going up each week. It's not going to go up fast enough to even come close to meeting demand at all. I get they got the cool slab and it's got the cool colors, and I really like the look of some of them. Some of them look really nice. Some of them not so much. It's really hit or miss. Some of the cards look fantastic in there, depending on how they do the color match, and other ones I look at and I'm like, what the hell were you thinking? But they're not the answer when they're capped at a few thousand cards per week. Even if they up at 1,000 cards a week, that is nothing. PC Sports Cards sends 10,000 plus cards a week to PSA. That's one group submitter is sending 10,000 cards plus to PSA. And now all of a sudden you think that HGA is going to be able to handle a fraction of that load? They can handle like 1% of it, maybe. And now everyone's viewing them as the savior. And I hope they work out great. They are doing some really cool stuff down there. But it's going to be probably at least a year until they can scale up to even come close to meeting this demand. They are not currently in a place, in my opinion, to be able to handle what is about to hit them. People are going to get frustrated with the queue system, and it's going to piss them off. It's going to piss people. It already has. I see complaints every week when the queue system opens up about people complaining about not being able to get through. And what makes you think that's about to get any easier? They could add 10,000 submission slots on a week and it would probably sell out instantly. Good problem to have, but causes a lot of frustration. So what would you rather do? Send your cards off to someone and have them sit in a vault for 6 months, or week after week get pissed trying to get your cards in? The best part about all this is my favorite part. When HGA first announced, people were pissed at them for how expensive their card prices were to get graded at $35 a card. Oh, what were they thinking? They need to be cheaper priced. They're nuts. They're never going to gain market share like this. These idiots. Well, you put a limited supply on something and then all of a sudden it's the new rage and now everyone wants to use them. It is very funny to me how quickly that narrative has changed in less than a month. So once again, I wish HGA the best. I hope to submit cards to them one day. I truly do. However, everyone yelling today on social media that HGA is the answer to solve this riddle is not reading the room. They have cap submissions. It's going to take them a long time to get up to where they need to be able to handle the demand. That's just facts. They're working out of a strip plaza right now in Tennessee. They don't have a big, huge warehouse or anything like that. They're literally in a shopping plaza. They don't have a massive production warehouse, offices, etc. They're doing some really cool stuff. But cool your jets, everybody. They are not the mythical savior that's going to save the sports card grading industry. That's all I'm trying to say. So HGA fanboys, calm yourself down in the comments. So we've talked about PSA, we've talked about Beckett, we've talked about CSG, we've talked about HGA. That leaves us with a lone soldier. And boy, if you ever told me I thought I would be saying this in a video, and I have been one of their harshest critics over the last 6 months to a year, there's a good shot for low-end stuff that SGC might be the answer. I know. Anyone that's followed the channel for a while, I don't delete any of my videos. I don't unlist them. You could find plenty of videos of me out there criticizing SGC for the way that they handled things last year. That being said, as of present day, it sounds like they are relatively caught up on orders. They are still not accepting bulk orders, I believe, but you could submit regular orders through them at about $15 to $35 a card. Sub $500 declared value is $15 a card. That's mostly what we're talking about here. Sub $500 value cards. Once again, my stance here is anything high end, you're still sending the PSA. Anything low end, you're either setting the PSA on bulk and forgetting about it, or you're going somewhere else. I personally think SGC is best positioned to handle the low end volume. They went through this once already. They spent an entire year almost scaling up. They already have the infrastructure in place. At least we think they do. Now, if they get re-slammed again, who knows what happens, but they've been through this once already. They've fought that war. They've come out the other side. So for quick flip stuff, quick flip, low-end stuff that you just want to churn and burn, I think they might be the answer. I am not including, sorry, GMA guys, I did not even pull their website up. To me, they are a non-factor. I would send to SGC 100 times out of 100 before GMA. The 4 of you that like GMA, I am sorry I did not cover them in this video. Sure, GMA, I guess, if you want to. But I would send the SGC before I would go to GMA. 10 times out of 10. That's just me personally. But I really do believe that SGC might be in the best spot to capitalize on this. Like I said, they've been through this once already. They've gotten slammed before. Hopefully they learned some lessons and came out the other side of it okay. And now they are ready for what could potentially be hitting them. I don't know that they are. We could be, once again, we could absolutely be sitting here in 3 months again being like, freaking SGC, man, I can't believe they did it again. You know, did they not learn their lessons the first time? This, that, and the other thing. But I think out of the 4, I guess 5, if you want to include GMA, that they're going to be the best option. They have an established name already. Yes, the resale prices kind of suck right now, but I could see that changing if more and more people start grading with them. They don't have caps, and I'm assuming, and this is a big assumption, that they're going to be able to handle the extra growth. The one thing that's different this time around is that not everyone's going to be running to one place. Things are going to be a little more split up. You're going to have some people still grade with PSA. You're going to have a few people split off and go back to Beckett. And then a lot of people are going to try out the new kids on the block, CSG and HGA, if you can get through the queue. And then a portion will also go to SGC. Back in the spring of last year, it was PSA, it was Beckett, and nobody else. And then SGC came on the scene, and they caught flack from both ends. Resale value-wise, SGC 10s do decently. SGC 10s currently outsell BGS 9.5s in almost all cases. Speaking strictly ultra modern. SGC 9.5 sales are still a little weak. You're getting usually around PSA 9 pricing for those. SGC 9s are death. They're basically raw. CSG, we have no sales data on so far. GMA is basically GMA 10 is basically a PSA 9 in terms of pricing, sometimes less. And HGA has seen strong sales so far, but I don't think we have enough data to run out there and proclaim anything yet on them. I checked the Zion sale. Zion Prism HGA 9.5 went for about 150 less than a PSA 10, about 100 more than a BGS 9.5, and about 50 more than an SGC 10. Now, whether that holds, I don't know. I think there's a lot of FOMO with HGA and people trying to get a slab in their hand to see what it's all about. I'd be curious to see what those prices look like in 6 months. So I think that's where we are. In my personal opinion, let's fast forward 6 months from now. What does my crystal ball tell me? So let's see. We can revisit this in 6 months and someone can yell at me in the comments. PSA is still king. They are king of everything high end, and a certain portion of people still use them for bulk. Beckett is still the joke of the industry. CSG is caught up in SGC level news cycles that we saw last year. HGA has an extremely loyal following, but have trouble scaling up. So a certain portion of people still feel burned by the Q system and will swear them off. SGC will slip on turnaround times, but not as bad as last year, and maybe carve themselves out as a clear third of the grading companies. And GMA just keeps on GMAing. So that is I looked into my crystal ball to predict what the grading sphere looks like 6 months from now. Also, 6 months from now, I think there's a real chance that PSA does begin to work through the backlog and turnaround times get a lot better. I do think we are heading down that path. We didn't really talk about that at the front half of the video, but I understand why they're doing this. I get that it's going to piss a lot of people off, but it's kind of what they needed to do to slow down the tide of submissions while they continue to hire and expand and then bring in new technology. It was either this or they just keep falling further and further and further behind. Now, that being said, do we ever see these prices go down? Probably not. You know, when PSA quote unquote catches up, it's not like they're going to be like, okay, we're all caught up now, guys. Let's bring prices back down 30%. I don't think so. So let me know what you guys think down below. That's kind of my general thoughts on where this all goes from here. Like I said, I fully believe that SGC is probably the best position to gain market share on the lower end stuff. I worry that CSG may get overwhelmed. I have concerns about HGA and their limited number of slots being able to remotely handle the demand. And as I said before, GMA will just keep on GMAing. And people are still going to submit to PSA. That is still going to be a thing. The PSA 10 will be the most desired card still. Does it increase prices, decrease? I've been seeing a lot of talk about, does this mean PSA 10s are worth more and PSA 9s are worth more and this, that, and the other thing? Maybe a PSA 10 holds a little bit more value. I don't think so much on the stuff already slabbed. You know, there's 15,000 PSA 10 Lucas out there already. Maybe on the weirder stuff, sure. I will be curious to see if, to use 2020 Prism as an example, is there a wider gap between PSA and the other ones? Because all that stuff's going to be graded under the new ecosystem, whereas everything else has been graded under the old ecosystem. So I think that'll be curious to me of what do the price splits look like on a LaMelo Ball base between PSA, Beckett, SGC, HGA, and CSG. I've also seen weird speculation on what this does to raw card pricing. Some people are saying this is going to increase the value of raw cards. I don't understand the logic in that one. To me, if anything, this will decrease the value of raw cards because people are going to be less likely to grade slightly. So it may make more of them out into the market. I don't know. I don't think there's going to be enough of a move there to drastically affect the prices of raw cards one way or the other, to be quite honest with you. People are just specking on everything right now. So I don't think that's going to really change too much. But yeah, that's my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Probably, I'm sure we'll be talking about this for a while as it's one of the bigger news things to happen. So that's all I got for you guys. YouTube stuff down below. Click the like button. Subscribe if you haven't. And we'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.